Hi, Momo Mahada from CSR organization in Israel. It goes back to your question, and I want to ask you as well. You touched the question of confidence and trust. And usually when I come to the States and to the conference, I'm sort of showing my passport and ask the purpose of my visit. And I say it's a corporate responsibility conference, and I get various responses of these beliefs. And I think the most obvious one was, is there such a thing but home security officer? And I think the same thing goes with middle management and employees. They also sometimes ask, think as voters and then as managers, and they don't kind of see the connection between those two things. So the question is, how is there any chance for businesses to regain confidence, to show that it's not only about profits, and I think yesterday was mentioned greed. Is there a chance to do that? Thank you.
Well, if I would be rude, but I'm not rude, but if I would be rude, I would say most of your colleagues think that you are a week on vacation. And most colleagues think that you are from the luxury department. It's not essential for what the organization is doing. I mean, that's the hard fact of life. Most people think this is nice to have, and can we still afford to have a corporate social responsibility in a time of crisis, or should we get rid of it? I've heard those discussions in organizations, which is quite stunning, but it's true. So there is an imperative upon us to make the business case. Now, I can tell you, the business case is very easy to make. If you're a global company, if you do export, you need a license to sell. And the license to sell is the acceptance of societies that you can operate there. Second, it is inevitable that you get legislation and regulation and taxation upon you on climate change. It's going to happen. You just read the newspapers and you know it's going to happen. To be prepared for that and to turn it from a burden into an opportunity is a business practice, is a good business practice. I think you need to change your language. I've seen a lot of the material, and most of the material is moral material. Well, morality in organizations is very short-lived. It is as long as your own interest. So I think the moral side you should leave aside a little bit and make the business side a little bit stronger. Because there's a lot of skepticism. How do you mean corporate social responsibility? Corporations dump people by the first side of a problem. And you know what? Sometimes it's true. It happens. But you have to make the case that over time, sustainability means also sustainability on the long time for an organization. And therefore, the things you bring may be uncomfortable. They may be uncomfortable, but they are certainly at the heart of what an organization needs to do. But the confrontation cannot be on the level it was a couple of years ago. Therefore, I think what you desperately need is getting into the business lingo.
Terrific. We've got time for just one more. So who's our lucky last questioner? Right up here, because I can see you.
It's actually not a question, but in response to your question to us of what suggestions do we have. And so the suggestion comes from the trenches of those doing CSR, but also more broadly those in engineering and supply chain and so forth. So what things can leaders do? 3 suggestions, and they're pretty common, but they're, I think, good to hear. So the first would be, for your organization, for the CEOs and for you, to explain to the drivers, to give the context, and to really explain to the company the role that company can play in that time of change. Okay, so that would be first. The second is to inspire and really promote creativity and even failure within the company. There's going to need to be a lot of failures for the new innovative models to come to fruition. And I think the role of the CEO is to create the space for that to happen. And the third, and the most important one, and the one where I think some CEOs clearly get it, and for those of us that work at companies where that's happening, it's great, but it's not happening enough. And the third is for you to work with peers to really change those regulatory and the regulatory drivers that are pushing for the outcomes that we're generating today. What we really need is the CEOs to band together and say, we need a better way, and from our position of experience and even authority in society, this is what we're recommending is the better way, and for the CEOs to do that. So those would be the 3 suggestions from those in the trenches.
Thank you. Very good suggestions.
Great suggestions. Thank you very much, and please all of you join me in thanking Ben for a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much.